Jessica Clemens, and I recently watched the new live-action animated remake of Disney's 2002 film Lilo and Stitch. I was just a child, but a wee child when the original Lilo and Stitch was released, and I've always loved this movie. I'm obsessed with the TV show, obsessed with the game, obsessed with the movie. I love it. Naturally, I had to see the remake. The film follows the same general storyline as the original, featuring many similar scenes. However, it does deviate from the source material in the second act and ends with a lot of chaos, nonsense, and absurdity, which I expected in Lilo and Stitch, but you know, whoo, did it kind of go off the rails. Now let's dive into this movie and explore some of those hidden details you might have missed and just talk about it all, because I know that people watching this probably love the 2002 movie and want to see the similarities. But first, before we really get into it, make sure to check out nerdriot.shop where you can find the latest and greatest in new Rockstars merch. We got some Last of Us merch. We got Fantastic Four merch. Did I mention we have Jurassic Park merch? I love the Jurassic Park merch. I'm obsessed with it. Go to nerdriot.shop. It's the best way to support the channel. Go get some cool clothes. Text message telling us where we are, like the original movie, but this time it says this galaxy. I think this is the Queltquan galaxy. I hope I pronounced that a little bit right, which is allegedly the same species Jumba is. It's also Tuesday. The design for the Grand Councilwoman is really fun. I never recognized her outfits like Halo, which in the movie is similar to like antlers. It has the texture of like coral. She's voiced by the great Hannah Waddingham, who you might know, or you might remember from Hocus Pocus 2. She was the Mother Witch. When we first see Stitch, he's incredibly cute. The CGI is just really fun for his fur and his eyes and his like baby teddy bear face. I can't explain how cute he is other than comparing him to like a Mogwai. His scale in this movie is much smaller than the original movie. I always thought he'd be scarier because in the original movie, he's the same height as Lilo. The director spoke on this on his TikTok saying Lilo had the mind of a 6 or 7-year-old, but the body of a toddler. And sometimes in animated films, you can get away with this, and in live action, you just can't. And this is very true. The director is also Dean Flesher Camp, who also did Marcel the Shell with shoes on. So he's really good at making movies that make you want to break down and cry. Stitch is voiced by the original Stitch voice actor and Stitch creator, Chris Sanders. Did you know that Chris Sanders co-directed and co-wrote the original film, but also used to work as a designer for Jim Henson's Muppet Babies and was a lead storyboard artist at Disney? In 1985, he created the character Stitch, though later he was able to pitch the character to Thomas Schumacher, and the rest is history. He did a lot of VO for the movie, as you can tell, but couldn't be there fully participating on set and helping out since he was also directing The Wild Robot. Chris Sanders did Lilo and Stitch and The Wild Robot, which makes a lot of sense because both movies are about finding and making your own family. Then we meet the man who created this weapon, Jumba, played by Zach Galifianakis. Like in the original film, Stitch says the same quote from the OG movie, something explicit and disgusting enough to make that robot man throw up his nuts and bolts. And the squid-like guy was in the original movie as well, but he flopped over the desk instead of inking himself. I really like the designs for these aliens, and I'm really obsessed with the chaotic little pink axolotl with the bows. She's so precious, and I will protect her with my life. You notice that with many features like the axolotl and the coral-like design on the Councilwoman, many of these creatures or aliens are definitely inspired by water-based animals, which is fitting for a movie like Lilo and Stitch, of course, where the ocean is like 40% of the plot. They worked with the designer Ben Wooten, whose designs capture a mix of like zoology, so it's not so surprising that they perhaps took note for creating these animal-like aliens. I feel like this is also similar to the original film's design because Captain Gontu was absolutely like a whale or a shark. Speaking of Gontu, he doesn't make it into the film, which I immediately assumed was due to their budget. The remake reportedly has a $100 million production budget, notably a lot smaller than the others, The Lion King getting 260 and The Little Mermaid was getting 240. I understand that both those films have a lot of CGI and visual effects, but to cut some corners, I assume that's why Jumba and Pleakley play most of the movie in their human form. We only really have to deal with Stitch as the only CGI'd character for most of the film. Also, it looks like these two are making a return cameo. In the original movie, these two are on the ship's deck with Gontu. They continue to call Stitch by 626 and decide to exile him. He's placed in a locked up room where weapons are genetically programmed to his DNA. He spits on the man monitoring him, which triggers the weapons to turn against him. This leads to what was done in the original movie as well. And just like the original, he steals the red one and they refer to Earth as ER. Another addition I really like in this movie is that they actually explain the water to molecular density thing in terms everyone will understand. The Councilwoman simply just says he can't swim. Then we meet Pleakley, played by Billy Magnuson. He immediately storms in wearing a cowboy outfit, which I thought was interesting. It makes sense because he's an Earth expert. He's probably obsessed with donning our clothes. Still, his original outfit is like a uniform, like a corporal uniform, which makes me think, was that also his idea of human clothing? Does he just think we all wore like Napoleon's military uniforms? I just think it's interesting to talk about. Pleakley's design is also disgusting. I don't like that he looks like he's a wet frog. This is also when they run into the gag about the mosquitoes and the aliens being the reason they exist on our planet, so they're to blame. I like that they kind kind of switched it up on us that Pleakley is not afraid of Jumbo when first meeting him. He's actually excited and very loving. Now on our way to Earth, we hear our first song, and let me tell you, this soundtrack still slaps. It's still really good. Mark Kealiamahu and the Kamehameha School's children's chorus, including Linnell K. Bright, the mother of the Lilo & Stitch screenwriter, Chris Bright, returned to record this new original song. I will say, it feels more like a reimagined version of the song because it still is like the original song, they just tweaked it a little bit. Regardless, I really like this song. While writing this breakdown, I listened to this song on repeat. It's very good. Beyond the colorful fish, we follow a young girl leaving a little sandwich for a puffer fish, and it's LILO! As we remember from the original movie, this is Pudge, the fish she would feed peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to. They also can control the weather. LILO is played by Maya Keloa. They searched high and low for this little girl, and she is great. I'm sure all the little girls that auditioned for LILO were great. I'm obsessed with her. As like the original movie, LILO is running late to her recital, and she's sprinting to get back. We also see that LILO has Scrum, her doll. Throughout the movie, they feature this man from the original film who would always drop his ice cream. In this movie, he's got a snow cone, and here's his Instagram. He loves this character. LILO, on her way to the recital, frees the chickens, and I like the chickens a lot. I appreciate the subtle changes they can explore in a live-action adaptation. For instance, what does she do on her way to the recital? What would a real LILO do in Hawaii? I remember when I visited Hawaii, I was obsessed with all the free-range chickens. We see Jimmy's luau where Nani works. She's trying to make it to LILO's recital, but things ain't shaping out for Nani. We'll meet the manager later, and it's played by Jason Scott Lee, who actually voiced David in the original Lilo & Stitch movie. Nani is played by Sydney Elizabeth Agudong, and what I love about her playing Nani, I think the actress having a little sister really played up how close they are. I love how much she holds LILO like a baby throughout the movie, like Nani did in the original movie. On the other side of things, the mean girls at LILO's recital pick on LILO enough to retaliate, and let me tell you, I hated this scene as a child, and I hate it even more as an adult. Instead of showing off their dolls or just being nice, they show off their friendship bracelets, and they call LILO a garbage girl for having a garbage bracelet and having garbage on her arm, and I was like, stop! She just wants friends! Back at home, after the recital, LILO pulls out Elvis Presley's Blue Hawaii vinyl. Blue Hawaii was the 1961 film starring Elvis Presley. However, she's playing Heartbreak Hotel by Elvis, and this soundtrack almost includes all the songs from the original film. This one, Devil in Disguise, and a new cover of Burning Love by Bruno Mars's Nephews, produced by Bruno Mars. This is where we meet the social worker, who isn't Cobra Bubbles, but Miss Kakoa, played by Tia Carrere. Tia was also the original voice actor for Nani. When Kakoa realizes things aren't going well, she tells Nani she needs to do 3 things to keep LILO. 1, clean the house, 2, pay the bills, and 3, get health insurance for both herself and LILO, to which I immediately responded, alright, so we're gonna see LILO get seriously injured. Great. After LILO and Nani have their screaming match, LILO runs to her room and slams her door. Like the original movie, the sign says Kapu, which translates to forbidden, so it's like her keep out sign that you would have as a child on your door. This is when we meet another character, Tutu, played by Amy Hill. She's David's grandmother. Amy Hill also voiced Miss Hasegawa in the original movie as well. We also meet David, played by Kapu Dudua. The story departs from its original material when we learn that Nani had applied for college to be a marine biologist, and she actually got in with a full scholarship. Still, it seems like she didn't end up going after her parents died and she became LILO's guardian. This backstory serves as a major motivation for Nani, who was once an athlete and dedicated surfer, training endlessly until life took an unexpected turn. When talking about Nani's life and how she also needs to put herself first, Tutu is actually the first person in the movie to speak Ohana, which means family, and she reassures Nani no one gets left behind, even you. Oh, I need a neighbor like Tutu. Later that night, looking up at the stars, the 2 sisters see the constellation named the 3 Sisters, which is a real constellation, which we also call Orion's Belt. That's when the shooting star comes, and it's Stitch. Stitch has arrived. When he lands, we see the toad that croaks at him like they did in the original movie, but his electric band keeps shocking him. Stitch will be electrocuted a lot in this movie, and ultimately, it will save his life. Then we hear Uptown Funk by Bruno Mars, and there's a wedding in the distance, but that's not what's important. What's important here is the wedding cake. Stitch is heavily food motivated in this movie, which I know he likes sweets from the first movie, I just didn't know it was to this degree. He finds a golf cart and immediately pulls up to that wedding, crashing it. What's funny here is the Super Bowl did a promotional video that's kind of similar to this scene, with Stitch just causing chaos over there, and then we have the Thunderbolts poster with him exploding from it. I just gotta give it to Disney for the promo for Lilo and Stitch. It was so easy to apply him everywhere. This sequence at the wedding is actually pretty funny. I was really liking the first half of this movie. I thought it was really charming and funny and chaotic, just like Stitch. After the wedding and being run over by a tourist bus instead of a semi-truck, we're now with Pleakley and Jumba, who take the DNA of their cloned human counterparts, which I thought was a really fun bit to do. However, you know I wanted that bob wig Pleakley as well. According to Deadline director Dean Fletcher Camp has commented on the appearance of Pleakley, saying, I have had people message me, why is Pleakley not wearing a dress? And I just want to say, I tried. And as added proof, he shared what appeared to be his original concept drawing for Pleakley. Pleakley was gonna be a baddie. Like, if this was actually what Pleakley was gonna look like, oh my gosh, Disney, how could you betray me? Whatever, I don't even care anymore. But it is funny that Pleakley explains that he majored in human studies and minored in human textiles. Go off, queen. Instead of the original movie where Nani takes LILO into the animal shelter, Tutu lets her go in alone. Outside, Stitch tries to evade Pleakley and Jumba, and we get this scene that I really love, this time in a truck, where Pleakley asks, how good is his hearing? And he whips around in the thermal scope. How good is his hearing? This is the moment she falls for Stitch, and it's genuinely really heartwarming. They invested a lot in this first encounter. They slowed it down, upped the sad music to highlight how significant this moment is for both of them. There's also a moment in the dog shelter where LILO goes, he can talk, and Stitch is about to speak, and he's cut off by Tutu saying, dogs can't speak.
He can talk. Say hello.
Hello.
Dogs no can talk.
Dogs can't talk, LILO.
Ruff. Ruff.
I love this scene in the original movie because I thought he was offended by the shelter lady saying that, but in this it just kind of looks like, oh yeah, you're right, my mistake. I like the different outlooks you can give in the live action. On the back of the wall, there's a poster they keep coming back to that has a dog and a girl hugging, and this poster was in the shelter in the original movie, and I love that, like the original movie, Stitch pulls the shelter lady by his own leash because he's just not a dog. He's super intense and super strong because he's an alien. Then we officially meet Bubbles, played by Courtney B. Vance, and if you're wondering why Ving Rhames couldn't reprise his role in this movie, he's busy doing Mission Impossible. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's the actual reason, but it is a fact. He is in the new Mission Impossible. In this movie, Bubbles works for the CIA. In the original movie, he worked for the CIA briefly, handling the Roswell incident. However, in this movie, he's working for the CIA to capture Stitch and the other aliens who might be here too. Then at the shop, Stitch watches Earth vs. the Spider, the film he watched in Awe in the first movie, where a radioactive spider attacks a town. And instead of stealing the big bike and trying to drive off the island, he steals this little pink car that we've been seeing in the promos that says Too Fast for the license plate. Then, like the original movie, around the same time, we hear Elvis Presley Stuck on You. In this scene, he destroys a sandcastle city instead of the San Francisco one he built in the original movie. And this is also when they finally give him his name. Unlike the original film where he was named while being adopted, we didn't really get a lot of the adoption scene. Actually, we didn't really get an adoption scene. He just kind of immediately was owned by LILO. And I love the adoption scene in the original movie when LILO's trying to pay for her own dog.
Can I borrow $2?
At the luau, we get a shot-for-shot, almost the same scene as the original movie. Stitch makes a scene at the luau. Unfortunately, he doesn't bite Pleakley's head, but he does set a table on fire. This causes everyone to panic, and Jimmy fires Nani. In the movie, they like to play up the fact that Stitch is unreasonable and doesn't understand what he's doing is wrong. It's not so much about like confusion or a lack of concern. He just doesn't see what he's doing is not fun for everyone else. Now we get Elvis Presley's hound dog while Stitch is tearing up the house, and this scene is in the trailer where he scratches his butt on the floor like a dog, and what reason did he need to do that? Sorry, it was a very funny scene. I cracked up in the theater. When I was a child, I thought the scene of Stitch acting crazy until LILO placed the lei around his neck was so funny, and I'm glad they kept that in. I don't know if it was just the sudden, unexpected reaction or it actually just calmed him down physically, but it was funny nonetheless. The next morning, while Nani is looking through papers, LILO tries to show her that Stitch can be used as a speaker. In the original movie, it was Suspicious Minds by Elvis Presley, just like it is here. The next song we hear is Devil in Disguise, baby, and I love this song. This might be my favorite Elvis Presley song. We're looking at Stitch's badness level, which shows a drawing of him. The red signifies how much pent-up evil is in him. This drawing was also shown to Stitch during the luau scene in the original movie. He goes through the same series of trials to be better as Nani goes through endless trials of being denied a job. Both unfortunately failed to find any success in any of these things. Then David tries to cheer them up by having a great surf day, and this is when we get Hawaiian roller coaster ride. Nani picks up a job teaching locals and tourists how to surf, something she's excellent at doing. And while they're surfing, Stitch gazes at a literal dog surfing with their owner. And this is Tyler Landon and his 6-year-old bulldog Dale. Landon owns Sup Dog Hawaii, which teaches people how to surf with their animals. They paddleboard and whatnot. It's honestly insanely adorable. And this dog just loves water. They then take Stitch out onto the water and everything's going great. He even grabs onto Nani's leg like in the original movie. This starts warming my little heart until Pleakley and Jumbo ruin everything. What I like here, in the original movie, Stitch just sort of dropped off and Nani assumed like, yeah, I think someone just hit my board. But we see here she makes a quick glance and notices, yeah, someone in fact did mess up my wave. She doesn't know that it's Pleakley and Jumbo though. After almost drowning LILO and being kicked by Nani, we actually handled this in a really grounded reality. We take LILO to the hospital. This brings us back to the beginning when the social worker said Nani needed to get LILO insurance but still hasn't. And I appreciate the nurturing approach the social worker takes with Nani in this movie compared to Bubbles, who yelled at her after their house collapsed. While Bubbles' reaction was understandable, the social worker handled the situation differently. She recognized that Nani is trying her best, and also Nani's like 19 or 20 years old. I will say that at this point, Pleakley and Jumba are fighting the council, and Pleakley is taking a bath around this time in the scene, and you can see there's a shopping bag for Louis Vuitton, so has Pleakley really changed? Let's be honest. Let's be for real. This is when we get the scene of Nani and LILO lying in the hammock because Nani needs to break the news to LILO, and boy, did I sob. Oh my god. Nani sings Aloha Oi, and boy, I just turned off the waterworks. I couldn't. In the original movie, this is where we see Stitch leaving with the Ugly Duckling book. Both LILO's in the original and this new one say, I remember everyone who leaves, and again, Stitch crawls out the window. In this movie, instead of using the Ugly Duckling as a reference, Stitch returns to his kennel at the dog shelter and nestles himself to sleep. When they come back to get LILO the next day, of course, LILO is already gone. We get a fight with Jumba and Stitch at the dog shelter, but unfortunately, LILO gets wrapped into all of this, and Jumbo follows them back to their home, and he purposely destroys their house. I don't like that Jumba is the bad guy in this movie, but he is heinous. He's awful. He's worse than Scar. Okay, maybe he's not worse than Scar, because Scar killed his brother and tried to kill his nephew, but Jumba is trying to kill technically what could be considered his son. I'm making excuses. I'm making excuses. Once Jumba successfully gets Stitch, he tells them that instead of killing Stitch, he's actually gonna dismember Stitch and create 627. The outline figure is 627. Not to be confused with Leroy, the experiment 629, who has like a rounder head, but looks very similar. There's also an Easter egg of Angel, experiment 624, and Ruben, experiment 625. Ruben was one of my favorites because I would play his sandwich game on Disney Online for hours. The producer did say there's also an Easter egg for Leroy, experiment 629 as well. I just didn't see it in my one time watching the movie or in the sequence. They did also mention that if it did get a sequel, they would want to talk about these aliens, and Angel, Ruben, Leroy. Oh my god, please. After capturing Pleakley, though losing LILO to Jumba, Bubbles basically takes the place that Jumba had in the original movie and helps the family save LILO. LILO and Stitch successfully get out, and whereas in the original movie they landed happily in the ocean, it's the exact opposite in this movie. It is not happy at all. LILO and Stitch both almost drown again, and I'd argue Stitch does successfully drown. LILO can't lift him in the water because he's so heavy, so Stitch lets her go and sinks to the bottom of the ocean floor. When Nani and David swim out to save her, they aren't preoccupied with Stitch, who's drowning at the bottom. LILO is their top priority. LILO screams for Nani to go back for Stitch, and during this scene we get the intercutting of Stitch coming to peace with drowning and dying on the seafloor. Excuse me? Fortunately, Nani swims down to rescue Stitch using her surfing training. She walks on the seafloor, propelling herself forward. Once they reach the shore, Stitch is lifeless, and they have to use a car battery jumper to revive him, and thankfully, it works. At this moment, that's when the councilwoman arrives, just like in the movie, to take Stitch away. She arrests Jumba and learns Stitch isn't actually as horrible as he was before, and decides to let him spend exile here on Earth with his new family. In the final scenes, we learn that Tutu has now become the legal guardian of LILO, and she's right down the street, and David, Tutu, and LILO encourage Nani to go back to school, which she does. Bubbles and Pleakley are now part of the gang and have rebuilt the house, and the movie ends with LILO, Nani, and Stitch all going to bed saying good night, sister, and Stitch saying good night, sisters. Now, did I love the movie? No. Did I really like the movie? Not that much. I don't think the movie was like extremely groundbreaking, but I did think the first half was really fun. It kind of just fell off for me. But going back through this breakdown, I appreciate many things about it. Things that they couldn't capture or explore in the animated movie, they really expanded on in this movie, and I like that bit of distance from the first original movie. Though I do have beef with all Disney live actions because they really just take out the parts of the original movie that I loved a lot. I'm not torn or angry about any of them. All in all, we have 2 LILO and Stitches now, and when hasn't 2 ever been better than 1? Comment down below your thoughts on the movie, and a special thanks to one of our YouTube members, Jesse Bush, who supports us at the executive producer level. Follow me at Lulu_Clemens, subscribe to all